Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'll tell you the story, and you can see kind of how this relates, or not. It's up to you. Uh, but I don't know. I makes myself laugh. I don't know what's going on. I'm tired. I have not been drinking yet. Soon. Drinks and no Arby's. That's what we'll do. Um, so as some of you know, I've had businesses now. Certainly, comic shops been fun. I've done the comic shop on my own most of the time. Had a partner at one point that went horribly wrong, and that's where I learned just don't get into partnerships. By and large, if you can avoid it, don't, or at least get into a partnership with a partner who's going to bring something to the table. And there could be a couple of reasons. It could be wealth. You need the partner to bring money to the table. That's a valid reason. Or it could be some expertise you don't have. A lot of tech companies start with a really smart engineer and a start sales or business guy. So one person can develop, the other person can sell. There's lots of different reasons you start with a partner, but in a comic shop there's no real reason to do that. And I didn't need it for the money. I didn't need help with funding the comic shop. The reason I did it for is for a stupid reason. And I think it's good when we can acknowledge the mistakes we've made. So a mistake I made, hopefully you guys can learn from it, is there was somebody who really wanted to get into comics. They had a passion for comics, and I am a sucker for people who have a passion for things. I'm like, oh, this is a dream. This guy has a dream. I want to help a guy who has a dream. I mean, who doesn't want to help somebody who has a dream? Everybody wants to help somebody who has a dream. And so I'm like, let's go in on it together. And in my head, I justified it a lot of different ways. I'm like, I don't have a lot of time because I'm also doing consulting over here, or I'm working for this company over there, or I'm doing a number of different things. So I reasonably, one of the things about opening a business is that you want it to look well cared for. So in my head, I'm like, well, here's somebody with a huge passion for comics. Here's somebody who will really care for it. And mistakenly, I thought, here's somebody, because they have so much passion, they're also going to, be somebody who's going to care about the details. I did this video recently, and a lot of people pointed out it's not that way anymore. And okay, fair. That's fair. I think, as I mentioned, I did a lot of work for the Walt Disney Company. I've said this before, particularly during the 2005 to about 2015 timeframe. I did a lot of work in both for and then with that company. And I really admired Disney, the parks. I worked with the parks group. And I admired that group because, you had the Imagineers, you had the people who were doing the rides, and they were meticulous about the details. Now, things have slipped. Several of you pointed that out, and it's true. Things have slipped. But once upon a time, they were maniacal about the details. And I appreciated that. So I got it. But anyway, so I did this store, and I convinced myself that taking out a partner would be fun because I didn't have the time to do it right. And, having somebody who had a huge passion for comics who allowed them to live out their dream. And, there's a little bit of charity in my head as well. Like I'll give this person a step up. They'll get a chance to kind of, be equal partners. I'll stand to gain a little bit. This person will stand to gain a lot. We'll kind of level them up. This would be a good thing. And sure enough, it was absolutely the worst decision of all the shops that I opened over the years and the things I've done. This was by far the biggest disaster. It was a disaster because it turns out passion does not translate into meticulous care about the product. Sure, I think a lot of the people at the Walt Disney Parks Group are passionate about Disney and about putting that stuff together. I don't know about today, but they were. But it wasn't the passion. And I think this is the big message I'm trying to communicate to all five of you who are listening at this point. Passion doesn't equal quality. A lot of people make that mistake. They go, well, this person is really into the business. This person is really into comics. This person is really into Spider-Man. Therefore, they're going to do an amazing job. Well, not always. By the way, we don't live in two binary positions. I am not saying that the opposite, saying, well, don't get somebody who's really passionate about Spider-Man. Get somebody who fucking hates Spider-Man. That's a person to write Spider-Man. No, don't do that either. That would be stupid. But, and it's certainly possible that somebody who is passionate about comics or a character can do a good job. But it is not a lock. It's not always going to be the case. Many cases, that passion can lead people to make stupid decisions. foolish decisions. The expression, they think with their heart instead of their head. Sometimes you need people to think with their head. In fact, all the time. You never think with your heart. That's not how anatomy works. The Joker might as well be having a baby and be pregnant. That's the same level of anatomy. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm going to bring that up for the next year. But what you're looking for often in a business partner, or if you're producing comics, or if you need somebody, whether it's you, a part of yourself, a partner, whoever it happens to be, you need some element in that picture who's going to be fanatical about the details, who's going to say, you know what, when I go home at night and I get into bed, I'm thinking about the things I didn't get done during the day. I'm thinking about the extra pieces that still need to be done, the stuff that could have been better. You need that neurotic bastard on your team. That person is the person who's going to make sure that, the coloring on this book isn't good enough. Got to do it better. The staples being kind of crooked here, that's not a quality product. Do it again. You need that person. That person is kind of sometimes the difference between an A product and a B product. And the challenge that you have right now is that personality type is definitely not common in comics. Sadly, that personality type is pretty considered. I mean, unfortunately, in art, people come up with a lot of reasons why that person's not important. Well, they get in front of the creative process. Well, they get in the way of passion. You need somebody passion first, reliability second. Yeah, that's stupid. In many cases, reliability first is a better plan, because no matter how creative and how incredible you are, no matter how great your ideas and everything you can bring to the table, you could be the best artist in the world. If you can't meet a deadline, you're not going to get very far. And that's the dirty, ugly truth to a lot of things in a lot of businesses, but certainly comics. The ugly truth is, if you don't have the details down, if you can't, show up, if you can't write a coherent email, if you, keep blowing your story deadlines because you're high all the time, if you can't do those things, you're not going to get anywhere. And the comic industry, there's not a lot of those obituaries, and I mean that not in the death sense, but I mean the death of the career sense. There's not a lot of recognition to those people, because comics kind of hides those failures. Believe it or not, there's plenty of people out there who went off the rails creatively, and every now and then you heard about them. Stephen Platt? Is that right? Stephen Platt? No, I'm second here. Pratt? Anyway, I think it's Platt. Anyway, there's an example of, you've heard Rob Liefeld, you've heard a couple other people say, guy was really difficult to work with, would constantly rework, missed a lot of deadlines, just couldn't be done. He's a very promising creator. But by and large, the comic industry buries those stories. And I think they bury those stories because the comic industry is terrified of somebody coming in who is that drill sergeant, who is that meticulous, no, it's not good enough, do it again type of personality. A lot of you listening right now are probably too young to remember the Jim Shooter era, meaning having lived through it. You've seen the interviews, you've heard lots of different stories after the fact. But, to live through it, to collect comics during that period, and to be, for me, getting really interested in the backstory of what was going on in the late 80s, and, like reading all the designs that would talk about kind of the comings and goings of comics. I mean, that was interesting stuff. People hated Shooter, fucking hated that guy. They hated him because he would yell at him. He was maniacal about the numbers. Now, any successful business does need both sides. It does need strong influences. It does need the creative side. It also needs the precision side. It usually does not work well if you do one and not the other. It is important that you have both voices. Very important. But comics did such an effective job of murdering off the meticulous on-time voice. Now, that doesn't mean there's nobody in comics who does this. I can't help but notice that whenever certain artists or certain writers kind of jerk around with their schedules, Dan Slott, there's a there's a Jim Zub who comes in to help pitch and get it done, and good for him that he does, because the comic goes out. There's people who are reliable, who can be coming in, who basically can wake up on time and can get pages and can answer emails and can do the basics. But comics, by and large, has downplayed that personality type so severely that we find ourselves almost naturally giving excuses for completely goofy behavior. I was talking to another creator, and basically we were talking about now you're talking about Donnie, honestly, Donnie Cates, and we're talking about a guy, he's going through some hard things, and sympathetic for that for sure. He also missed deadlines. Basically, had to bring in other writers and other people on the creative team to finish the books. Now they did that, because they're trying to help the guy out. He's going through tough times, and they're trying to help him out. And there's nothing that's admirable. Not only is there nothing wrong with that, it's admirable. You're trying to help the guy out. What was surprising, though, to me was not the Donnie situation or the fact that Marvel did this. It was the excuses the industry was given around. It doesn't really matter, though. I mean, it's just comics. It's just comics was the answer. Comics. Comics are not that important, so it's just them. If it's late, if it's 2 months late, what does it really matter? What really matters, because it's a mass market product that's expected to sell 75,000, 85,000 copies. That's why it matters. It matters because if it's done right, it's a 7 and 8 figure revenue stream for the company. I don't know about you. Do you have that kind of money just laying around that you could burn? It's interesting to see how it's developed, but you have to have the person who can basically buckle down and do the basics. If you don't have that person, it doesn't get very far. Not only does it not get very far, it completely disintegrates. And that's I think that's a culprit. So I want to tell you about that little bad part of my history. See what you think. Thanks for listening.